Greetings, all you web designers and future web designers out there. I wanted to put together a video about developing a taste for design, especially as it relates to websites. And so I've decided to go on a tour of a great website resource for seeing lots of designs. It's called webdesigninspiration.com. Shout out to this website. I want to thank you for having us here. This is great. So the idea I'm thinking here is that the way to develop a taste for design is to explore. And a great place to explore is on this website, Web Design Inspiration. And so I have charged my web design students, and I charge you all, especially if you're like me, where you haven't had a lot of training in design, you haven't really gone to design school or something, but you wanna just see what's out there. Or maybe you want to redesign a site that you're working on. Or maybe you're just like, I want to be that good designer. So the way to do this is to really start developing an eye. And the way to do that is to look at lots of websites. So I want to encourage you to look at a minimum of 50 different websites. I say at least 100, and then convince yourself, train yourself to always be on the lookout for good design. Okay, I want you to be inspired. So that's the job. In fact, I've even assigned this for my students. Let me show you what I have them doing. I'm having them create sort of a gallery of design patterns. So let me give you an example of what I would like to see my students do. And it wouldn't hurt for you to do this, and then I'll kind of walk you through. So we have a design, and I just numbered it. Design number 1, I gave a title. It's a website for downtown Greeley. It's greeleydowntown.com. I don't even know where Greeley is. I just like the website, and I like the design. So I just encourage everyone to have a title for each design. As I said, I think 50 to 100 websites, look at them, and out of those 50 to 100, pick 4 or 5. And on each one, just start identifying the things that you like about it. And this will help you to sort of develop your own taste and style, help you to start training yourself, and give you motivation to learn more design techniques with CSS and HTML. In order to talk about design, I want you to look at the categories they have for this. So when you're thinking about design for a site, you should take into account what kind of a website is it you want to make. Are you going to make an event? Or is it e-commerce? You want to sell something online? You want to make a mobile app? Are you a corporate executive that wants to whatever? Whatever. So there's a lot of different things. We can also take colors. This is just more for searching. You have different industries. So a website for architecture probably is going to have really nice design. Same thing for fashion. Okay. If you're going to make it educational, maybe design isn't as important that it's cutting edge, but it just depends on what it is you want to do. So you can look at different designs by industry, and I highly recommend, if there's something you are going to do, that you actually click on one of these industries if you're going to do something related to it and see what different inspiration there is for those similar kinds of industries. And then finally, I want to talk about designs by style. So maybe you want to go for the classy look. All right, I suppose that's classy. One of the things you're going to see, and I'll just go ahead and view this site. One thing that makes it more classy, I would guess, is probably the font, and that's talking about typography, which is what I said. So notice the typography here. You've got this kind of a text here, which is a very elegant looking font. It's a serif font. Then the navigation bar are sans serif. So part of typography is how text changes. And so that's one design. What makes it look classy? I don't know. I would guess part of it is the font. Part of it is the kinds of pictures you're looking at. Made for Spain and Portugal. Sounds very classy to me. Let's take a look at some other designs categories. Clean. The clean look is going to look pretty stripped down. Not a lot of busyness. I will say that just at a glance, this one doesn't look as clean as, say, this site or this site. Okay, clean look and feel. All right, but you can take a look at these and just take a look at different designs. Other things I want to talk about, when you're going to talk about design, it helps to know some of the design trends. So certain trends you should be aware of is the minimalist trend, which is, of course, kind of what it sounds like, minimalist. Not a lot going on, a lot of empty space. See, not a lot here. We'll scroll down, a lot of white space here. It still has a good layout. It's pretty balanced, or has at least a asymmetrical balance. But take a look at it. Also, don't forget to look at the nav bar too. You might see something about the nav bar you like. Notice there's some animation going on there. It's kind of slick. But minimalist is really going to be just like a lot of these, where you're not going to see a lot. You see a lot of white space. Actually, is what you're going to see. Not as much text. There's not a there's this sense of we can afford to have more space because it looks elegant. But it also keeps it clean and easy to focus on what's important. More design tips, other things. Flat design is something you should look at. Flat design really makes use of, it does not have a lot of gradients and shadows. It makes use of buttons that are more square, rectangular. You'll notice there's some icons. A lot of times it makes heavy use of icons, the flat design. But what you're not going to see is you're not going to see background gradients. You're not, well, there is a little bit here. Maybe. Not sure. But you're not going to see a lot of gradients. You're not going to see a lot of drop shadows. You're going to see pretty much a lot of buttons are going to be not looking like literal buttons. They're going to be more like figurative, or like these kind of buttons here, where you got a kind of a circle around. These are kind of like buttons, and these, of course, are icons. So that's what the flat design is primarily. And you can look these up too. Just Google the terms. So I think we talked enough about the different designs. Let's also just talk in general about things to look for. I already mentioned navigation bar. And I want to go back to that Greeley site. Take a look at look at the navigation bar. Okay. One, do they have a navigation bar that you can read when you first go to the site? Or does it have, wait, that's not the one I'm looking for. Or does it start with not really a nav bar, but the little nav bar menu that pops out? Okay. And going back to the Greeley one, I want to point out there are a lot of web pages on here, but it's basically stripped down to the three most important parts about this website: explore, play, and work. So that's a design technique, is what you put on a nav bar. What about like animations? So these are kind of those drop-down animations, and you notice how the colors sort of appear. So that's things to look at. I already mentioned fonts. Let's look at the use of color as well. So you got different colors being used here. There's also animations. And so if you want to know what's being used for color, what's being used for font, let me show you how to do that. Here are the things I'd like you to think about. First of all, just what do you observe about the design? Okay, so just think about what stands out. If you already picked it because you liked it, well, what's standing out for you? That's going to tell you what you kind of like. What about the typography, use of text? How are the headers being used? What about the standard paragraphs? What font is being used there? Are they using colors to make things pop out? If it's on text, that's a typography use. Look at the use of colors as well. So when do they use colors to highlight? Okay, when is it being used? Are they doing something that really stands out? Going back to the Greeley site, and I just don't know why, I just keep coming back to this one. If I can find it again. And I can't even find it anymore. There we go. Look at the use of color. Right here, we've got this teal only for Greeley, and it's on a script font. So one of the things you'll notice is many times that's used to emphasize or to make something pop out and call attention to itself. If everything is white and then one thing is a different color, the eye is drawn to the other color. If all the fonts look one way and then suddenly there's a change, that draws the eye. That's typography and use of color. What about backgrounds? How are they using backgrounds? What about images? Okay, are they making use of images or not? What about icons? What kinds of icons are they using? Do you like the icons? Do they have a consistency to all of them? What about animations? And then finally, what about the layout? And that's just like how they position items on the screen. So let's look at layout on this site. Okay, everything kind of is taking the full width. The navigation bar goes across, this goes across. We scroll down, this goes all the way across, takes up the whole width, this takes up the whole width. And then suddenly we have 3 easy steps side by side. And we've now just changed up the layout because now we have sort of a grid of 3 items. Okay, and then we scroll back down, and now we have 2 items side by side. And then, of course, the text here is centered. And then we have 1, and then at the bottom we have some layout. So that's what layout's all about, is what they're putting where and how that plays out. So here's another one. We have 3 items side by side, and this is really emphasizing the services of this company. And you see that there are 3 services. If you can break something down into 2 or 3, it's a good way of kind of doing that. And then, of course, now we see 3 more. So actually, technically, it was 6. I just didn't count, and I didn't scroll. But that's all layout decisions. So what about that? I said I wanted to talk about fonts and how to get this information. So I'm going to end with that. So I'm going to give you some tools to figure out fonts. The first thing I want to say is if it's not a live site, you're not going to probably get the font. You probably won't know where it's from. But if you do have a live website, there's a great tool you can use called the developer tool. Let's say I really like this particular font and I want to know, what is that font? Okay, one of the things you can do is if you've got a Chrome browser or another browser, you can go to settings, go to tools, and you're looking for developer tools. Control-Shift-I will do that. A lot of times the F12 key will work as well. And the first thing I want to do is highlight this text here. So I click it, I look over here, and I scroll down a little bit. There it is, font family doses. So I'm going to just copy that, and I'm going to create a new tab, and I'm going to just Google that. Doses font. And there it says free. Oh, look, it's a Google font. So I click on it, and that means you can actually use this font for your own website. So it's a great handy tool, the F12 or developer tool. This also helps you get colors as well. Let's say I want to get one of these 2 colors. I do F12 to get the developer tool in place. I go over to highlight upcoming events, click here. There's my color code right there, and I got it. And so this is a great way to get colors as well. And so you just click on different items, and many times you'll find it. Make sure you're looking to see whether it's background or color. Sometimes it'll say background, sometimes it'll say background color, and then that will be obviously for the background. So you want to look at the different colors on there. Let's say you have a photograph and you don't know how to get the color code. Let me show you one last source. You can just Google colors from image. Just Google that, and right here, get colors from image. Now you can do this with Photoshop, but you can also do this here. So let me just show you how I choose a file. I created one in Downloads, and I called it Capture because I'm just that creative. There it is, capture.png, show image. Okay, once you show the image, you just move your mouse around. You see these colors sort of change. You get that cursor right about there. You click, and it grabs the color code of that image. So it's a great way to get color codes when you'd have no other way of doing it. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to show you how you can find that information and ways to develop your eye for design. On my next video tutorial, I'm going to get more into the specifics of editing the document using these different tools and how to paste it in. It's going to be more for my students that have to do it on Google Docs. So for you, I just want to remind you, just go back. It's get your inspiration, dig around, use whatever tool you can to find out how they do what they do. And the more you do this, the more you're going to develop your own sense of style, the more you're going to become a web designer. So good luck with that. I wish you the best. I cannot wait to see your websites out there.